What's up, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of Scoundrels of the Force here on PLD Projects. Thank you all for joining us on this Monday. We've had a lot of hard time scheduling this recently. Last week I had to do something. Yesterday we were supposed to go, and Jarvi got caught up. We couldn't do it without Jarvi. So we went with today. So hopefully you're bouncing along on these various things. We'll hopefully try to get back to a little more consistency. But we are here. You are here. We love you. Let's have a good time. Without further ado, let's introduce the fellow scoundrels of the Force here. I, of course, am PLD, your host, and I'm here first off with my brother from another mother, Matty Gunner, my friend. How are you doing?
What up, dude? We made this happen. We are here. We're here to talk Bad Batch, here to talk Star Wars. How are you, sir?
Not as amped as you are. I know you just came from your training session, so you're ready to rock, and you got those muscles going. I can almost seem like strained right now how much you're ready to go, like ready to explode out of the screen.
Yep. I'm ready to go. Ready to talk Star Wars. Rushed home. I'm ready to go.
Sweet. All right. Well, then let's get to it. We got the other brother from another mother. I can say it all the time. I feel like I have so many brothers now. It's like I got
so many mothers, apparently.
So many mothers. That's right. Wow. Interesting. Mr. Richard Eric Jarvi, how are you doing, my friend?
What's going on? It's good to be back. Blame Jarvi for this delay. I couldn't do it yesterday. I had some car trouble. But I'm excited. I'm here. Let's talk Star Wars.
Talking lots of Star Wars. We do have some news to discuss, and of course we'll get into the 2 episodes of Bad Batch. And I want to lead off with this just one thing I want to say. I'm actually happy and almost happier that we're doing episode 5 and 6 together. Because 5 to me was good, but it was made retroactively better by 6, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. But we'll definitely get into that. I want to say everybody here there. Hey, Tim, good to see you, of course, in the chat there.
Yep.
Jeremiah Morris, Jerry, we're gonna get you on one of these days, Jerry. We're gonna have you on talking about some Bad Batch at this point. We're talking about that before we went live. Love to have you on. Of course, Ferris, good to see you, my friend. Good to see you.
What happened to the song that you used to do? You used to sing Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars.
Say that? I probably
you did.
I might do that every once in a while. Bring it back. It was, what?
Ferris Paul is always lit. As the kids would say, Paul is always lit.
I like the comings of a beard as well. It's like
this is what this is called 1 week of no shaving, because I took a lot of time off last week to assist with the Schmodown trading stuff and everything else. And I was like, I'm gonna take a couple nights off, couple things off for the pay-per-view, watch Roka get destroyed by Bateman and all that stuff. And so this is that. I'm not shaved for a while, but it's gonna have to go tomorrow and I go back to work. So that's unfortunate. Because actually, the funny thing is, my mustache might be my brand, but I think if I actually had the chance, like, and I had like my work wasn't as weird as about like it's like dress code or whatever, I'd probably have a beard, to be honest with you. But that's it here. So maybe when I retire in like 19 years, then maybe you'll see PLD's mustache go away, become a full beard. But
just go up into the mountains and just grow like a full-on lumberjack beard.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then go yell at the top of the mountain.
Driver! Well, it's pretty good, I'll tell you that. All right, we're not talking about Rocky, though. That might be another, probably more consistent franchise, to be honest with you, Rocky, if I think about it. But that's another argument for a different time. Let's talk about the news. The news in the Star Wars universe. We had 3 pieces of news that we deemed worthy to mention them, which is not a new show, but we do like to touch base on like the more recent developments and talk about them briefly at least. The first one that yes, okay, Jerry, I get it, Jerry. I get it. You got a big bushy beard. I understand. It's good. When you come on, you know what? In 19 years, if we still like hanging out, get to hang out together, we'll compare beards at that point. All right, but the first piece of news was John Boyega stated he was open to return to the franchise, but definitely wanted J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy involved. This was kind of a turning point from what he had recently said before. Because at one point after Rise of Skywalker, he seemed like he was done with the franchise. He didn't want anything to do with it. He obviously had some issues with the direction of Finn and his character, or shall we say lack of direction. After The Force Awakens, with The Last Jedi, he was kind of sidelined. Rise of Skywalker, he was basically cut down to basically yelling Rey every 10 minutes, and that was about all he got to do. And I understood the frustration. A lot of people felt that frustration for him. A lot of people wanted to see his character develop more. A lot of people thought he should have be Force sensitive. They thought he was going to be after he handled the lightsaber. And I mean, they even touched on it at Rise of Skywalker, but then kind of like leave it hanging at the end. It's kind of like, I was going to tell you that, what? I was Force sensitive? You were in love with you? What's going on here? But as they sometimes say, time does kind of heal all wounds, so to speak, and these frustrations. And he has now said that he's willing and open to returning. I find it actually amusing. No, I mean, amusing is not the right word. But interesting that he does want Abrams, though, to come back and Kennedy involved. That almost seems like he's pointing some of the blame at Rian Johnson, perhaps. Maybe he liked what JJ was doing with him. Maybe even like that JJ tried to return it to him, but just didn't have a chance to really work through in the 2.5 hours whatever that we got in Rise of Skywalker. The fact that he wants Kennedy involved makes a little more sense, given that we heard that they had a sit down. I guess John Boyega and Kathleen Kennedy had a sit down about Disney and Star Wars and Lucasfilm and their direction and handling of characters like that. So that's interesting to me. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's definitely an interesting kind of U-turn that he's taken. I think that because for a while he was just basically like, I want nothing to do with this. They messed up my story. I don't know what to, I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what their original vision was. So I'm taking it with a grain of salt at the minute.
What about you, Jarvi?
I'm all in for Finn returning, but I'm definitely not on board with JJ returning.
Interesting.
So the first, I don't know. It feels like, to me, as time went by, the best Star Wars movie out of the three is the Rian Johnson one. Rise of Skywalker kind of has lowered and lowered in my eyes. The Force Awakens is fine. But when they first cast John Boyega, I figured he would be the main character and the Jedi. So this was something that I immediately, like, my brain was wired, okay, cool, we're getting another Black Jedi, I'm totally on board, I want to see more of this. Then it was all about Rey, which was cool as well, but in my mind, John Boyega was the main character and the Force sensitive or a Jedi. So I'd be very interested to see his story continue.
Okay. Fair saying the bag is persuasive. Yeah, if you're talking about the bag of money, that's always going to be persuasive. I mean,
yeah, that Mickey, like I always say, that Mickey Mouse money that's the ultimate.
Smooth over a lot of hurt.
You're going to offer me $10 million or however much to...
No. No
I
way.
I do know that, I will say that Kathleen Kennedy, gets a lot more flack than she is. I think that she's just not... I think I've mentioned it before. I don't feel she's a creative producer. She knows what she's doing business-wise. She knows how to put the right people in charge. I think having her in place and having more of a creative head like a Dave Filoni, somebody like that, or Jon Favreau, I think they could work really well together. But you've already seen what happened now that Filoni has been more the creative director this past year and a half. I know it's a lot longer than initially was made out by Lucasfilm website, but we've seen kind of an uptick in the right direction. And I would say about J.J. Abrams, like, I don't know if I'd rule him out quite yet. And the reason being, he seems to have learned some mistakes from it. I still feel like it wasn't J.J.'s fault or Ryan's fault. I feel like the real fault of the whole thing was the idea they didn't have a solid plan. If they had a plan in place from 7, 8, and 9, this is what's going to happen. This is the beats we need to hit in 7. This is the beats we need to hit in 8. This is the beats we need to hit in 9. Instead of going, here's 7, here you go, Ryan, what do you want to do? Okay, Ryan does this, now what do you want to do? And they're being pretty much at odds a lot. That was more the problem than JJ himself. JJ can put together a great film. Super 8 was a great film. I still think Star Trek 09 is probably my favorite Star Trek film in the series, to be honest.
Only one I've watched. It's the only one I've seen.
And The Force Awakens had a lot of good setup points. A little nostalgia heavy, obviously, but it was going to be. Rise of Skywalker, yeah, it was messy. I still enjoyed it, but it was definitely messy because JJ tried to do a lot of course correction and fix whatever he didn't like about Ryan's lack of a plan. So I still give JJ the benefit of the doubt, since he's learned from his mistakes. That's what I'd say about that real quick. But, let me see. Andrew Furtado, in the chat. Good to see you, my friend. FCL's own Andrew Furtado.
Hey.
We're friends here. We can't be friends in the FCL. He doesn't like me in the FCL. But in real life, he's really good, really cool dude. So I think Ryan's was the one I wanted to like the most, but there was so much off about it didn't work for me. I get that too. It could be Nightmare on Elm Street 2 of the franchise, better later down the line, but right now very hated. It's definitely very divisible. It's still, and we're going to talk about that when we get back off the Bad Batch and into more of our movie reviews. We'll definitely touch base on that. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good call, Ferris. You're not wrong. And Ferris, yes, Jarvi is in his new place. You missed it last week. He's got a new place. Isn't it fucking dope? He looks like...
Casa del Jarvi.
Actually, look, it does. It looks like it's classy and everything else, like much classier than we are. I don't know what he's doing.
Yep, did the place myself. Everything's me. I furnished it. Yep, thanks.
That's definitely that's an actor's pad right there.
All right. Well, moving along, I do have a hard out tonight, so I'm going to try to skim through this news quickly so we can go down into the Bad Batch. The second piece of news, we have a little bit of casting news. Robert Ems, known from Chernobyl, has been cast in the Andor series.
I wish, Cherry.
I have never seen. What's the comment that? Oh, just
Jarvi, that's some of that Mickey Mouse.
There you go, the mouse buddy. Yeah, it looks like it.
This is a green screen. This is a warehouse.
That's what it is. No, I don't. Have you guys watched Chernobyl? I only watched.
Yes.
I watched like 2 episodes, and I liked it a lot, but for whatever reason, I never went back and finished it. I probably should at some point. I did not like it. But I don't really remember his character very well.
Me neither. Honestly, that actor is kind of a blank for me.
Okay.
He has an interesting look, but I watched Chernobyl I think 2 times, and I still can't remember who he was in that.
Yeah, same.
Wow, that was a lot ago. Anyway, it might say a lot. Maybe I don't know. What about you? Do you remember him at all, Matty? Nothing.
No, not really. I remember Chernobyl being amazing and probably one of my favorite shows of the last few years, but I don't remember him. To me, he looks like someone who could be playing like an alien. They could put into an alien suit. My first thought was maybe like Imperial Shitweasel. But
That could be very much an Imperial. Yeah, I can see that happening. That's what it looks like to me. Just looking real quick at his filmography, nothing. I mean, he was in War Horse by Spielberg, Anonymous, Kick-Ass 2. It looks like he's all like on a minor roles.
Really?
TV. Yeah, Kick-Ass 2. He was in Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom.
Oh wow!
As Techmerc Jack. And he was a lead actor in the fantasy series Atlantis, which would have been the British fantasy adventure program. I don't know. I haven't heard of it.
I don't remember him being in Atlantis.
So he's Pythagoras, I guess. Main role, 25 episodes. So
That probably goes to show that me not remembering Atlantis too well.
not good. So I don't know, but hey, you know what? It is what it is. We don't have no idea who he's playing. There's no name and character or anything else. Like I said, but it looks.
He's Ron Burgundy. I'm kind of a big deal.
It's kind of a big deal. But good to be cool. Good to be cool. It's the main Boffin cat. That'd be a great development. So yeah, not much to talk about that. I mean, until we know his character or anything else, but it's just an interesting piece of news anyway. I do like his look. I think he could make a good Imperial, so we'll find out. And finally, big piece of news that we want to talk about. Jarvi has nothing to do with it. That's a comic book. Jarvi's like,
I'll go behind the green screen while you guys talk about this one.
It is from the comic books, but it does actually have some movie/TV implications potentially. Marvel has put together this big crossover series they're doing. They're calling it War of the Bounty Hunters. It's supposed to cross over into the Bounty Hunters comic books, crossing over into Dr. Aphra, crossing over into the main Star Wars line, Vader as well, I believe. And all it is, it's just basically this idea is what happened between Bespin and Jabba's palace, as far as Boba Fett taking Han Solo from Bespin and taking him to return to Jabba's palace. And it seems that it was definitely not a straight A to B line at this point. Already Han Solo has been stolen from Boba Fett. And so there's a whole lot going on in this place, and it's going to involve
It's a pretty sweet comic line so far.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. It's a pretty good storyline, something you didn't think of, but it makes sense in a way because it's months past before they actually get to see it in Jedi, so you never knew what happened. But this, see, Jeremiah, I agree. This is actually a good place to start because it's actually a mini series too. It's like an old school Marvel series, like the Infinity Gauntlet was. It was like an Infinity Gauntlet with all the other comic books tying into it. So it's a big storyline out there pimping, and you need a big splash. So they pulled out a pretty big splash at the end of the first. This is a spoiler if you guys haven't read it. The issue, First War of the Bounty Hunter, we find out, we meet this shadowy person like in a hood, and they're the person who stole Han Solo from Boba Fett, and Boba Fett's trying to hunt them down, and this organization's trying to work out some deal with Jabba themselves and everything else, talking about it. And then all of a sudden we get the reveal at the end of who it is. It's Kira.
Oh, that news I did see. I didn't know these two were connected, to be honest. I figured, because I read the Kira news, I was like, oh, she's returning. And this was another piece of news, so I didn't know that these two were connected.
So when I said huge character reveal in the comics, and you said you had no idea, I was like, oh, man. Oh, we're going to get Jarvi with this one.
Well, that's what it is. It is Kira coming back. It was kind of really cool. She said, like, Han, it was a great piece of dialogue there. Han said he always wanted to save me. This is maybe his chance to do so. And so Kira is back with Ed, and she seems to be in charge of Crimson Dawn.
Yeah.
She says, yeah, there you go, Jerry. There you go, Jerry. See, now you definitely want to read it, right? Yeah, exactly. She basically comes back, and then Crimson Dawn has been kind of out of commission for a little bit. They've been kind of quiet. They make mention at one point that the Hutts have obviously been the kings of the underworld at this point, but Crimson Dawn is trying to make a comeback. So we don't know what happened still between her going off to Dathomir and meet Maul, and now, I mean, obviously we know that Maul was no longer around because he got sliced by Obi-Wan and Rebels. So we are looking more into finding out where is Crimson Dawn, where is Kira, what has she been, and what's she going to do now. So having Kira in this time frame is cool. Now, the only problem I have with the whole thing is, for those who want to make Solo 2 happen, or a Disney Plus series or whatever, continuing the adventures in the film, if they're having her in this big comic book arc, does that mean that's not even in discussions anymore? I will say the timeline makes it still fine. Like, we could do a Solo 2, and I don't even mean, when I say Solo 2, I mean basically just continuing the story in whatever film, TV format they decide to do it. We get to see Kira and Maul together and see how that goes. So it might not, but the fact that they're even putting her in there at all, I don't know what that means. Any thoughts on that, Matty?
I think part of me wants to think it's just them gauging interest, because we obviously have the Lando series that's been announced, but we also see that they're changing projects, putting projects on the back burner.
Right.
Could this maybe be their way of being like, maybe even going to Donald Glover and being like, hey, look, there's interest in this story being continued. What can we do to make you sign on the dotted line?
Right.
And obviously Crimson Dawn, like, hello, of course, like, yeah, like, sign me up for that. If it's going to be the Crimson Dawn series that we never got, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm 100% in. What are Crimson Dawn even doing at this time? It looks like they're still around. They're still prevalent just by looking at the spaces. The Hutts saying they missed the Crimson Dawn parties. I was like,
right.
Okay.
So it went down, obviously, but they've kind of...
Yeah, but they're still there.
Right.
Yeah.
Have they set where Lando is in the timeline? And this now, do you mean, Jeremy? Do you mean during the War of the
series?
Hunters?
The Lando series.
During the Lando series. Okay, during the Lando series, we haven't yet, but there was always the heavy. They actually haven't announced anything about it except for Lando's getting a series. It was written by a prominent African American writer. I don't know who it was. I can't remember who it was now, to be honest with you, off the top of my head. But they also did kind of imply that Donald Glover would be involved. That was the idea. It wasn't going to be Billy D. Williams leading it, although they didn't rule him out either. I kind of heard a couple of rumors or maybe fan wishes that would be kind of one of those anthologies or bits and pieces where it's like a little bit of both. Like you have the old Lando talking about his good old days, and then Donald Glover would play the young Lando bit. So you get a little bit of Billy D. Williams, you get a little bit of Donald Glover, which would be kind of cool to me. I wouldn't mind that at all. Because
My money. Have
Billy
it all.
D. Williams is around. Let's use him while we can. I would love to see more Billy Williams while we can. He's not getting any older, or any younger rather. So I'd like to see more Billy as Lando. So even if he is just going to sit there and tell stories, that's okay, because he's still got it. Even Rise of Skywalker, he was still kind of cool to see. It's still kind of cool. He has the same smile. He has the same kind of swagger. A little slower maybe, but he's still got it.
Billy D's still got that twinkle, man. He's still got that twinkle in his eye.
My only issue with him was he should have said Han, not Han.
Yeah,
Because that was like his thing.
Well, I think maybe he wanted to do that back in the day just to piss Han off. That's my headcanon. He pissed him off back in the day. Now he's like Han. So
Even though you hear George Lucas in interviews, and George Lucas himself is saying Han.
Yeah, he does say it
Like-
sometimes. It's weird. It's weird. I mean, well, you know that one, in New Hope, the general calls her Princess Leia. Also, at one point, that's never corrected. So who knows? But well, all right. You know what? Let's move on now. We got through all our news bits. I'm excited about that. Hopefully, kids see that. Let's talk about these Bad Batch episodes. Now, I watched episode 5. I'm really curious to hear Jarvi's opinion on this. I know Jarvi had a little bit of reticence about it becoming a mission of the week, the whole thing like that. And I'll be honest with you, episode 5 had a little bit of that for me too. I was kind of like, okay, all right. I will say what I was talking about earlier in this episode, was that episode 6 kind of retroactively made that better for me. And I'm curious because to me it seems like instead of 5 being just another mission of the month, or mission of the week, or rather, it seemed like it was more establishing a home base, a home section. Now we're staying with Sid now and everything else. So I feel like 6 makes 5 better if they're going to continue. If they're going to continue on this thing, and now Sid is going to be their new home base, so to speak, and they're working with Sid for a bit as they try to figure things out. That is more to me than just a mission of the week. But we'll start with 5 first, and then we'll go into 6, and we'll talk about this at the end of both 6 before we get out of here. So episode 5, Rampage. That's what the first one was talking about. They are traveling. Omega gets Crosshair's comlink. We're also starting to distribute Crosshair's weaponry and things like that, and it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad, but it makes sense at this point.
No Crosshair in the episode at all.
Yeah, in either episode.
Yep.
We haven't seen Crosshair in a bit, or Tarkin, or the Kaminoans. And that might be why I was a little annoyed, too. Although, at the end of the day, we'll get to it. So I'm a little disappointed about that. I definitely was disappointed about not seeing... I really want to see an update on where they are. Hopefully this next episode we'll get a little more from that, because you can't do too long without it. I kind of have the feeling, looking ahead preview-wise, we might get a very big Crosshair episode now. We got because we're kind of back and forth. This is more bad batch. I think we're due a heavy Crosshair, Tarkin, Kaminoans, and I forget the guy's name, the other, the new Tarkin left in charge. Rampart.
Rampart.
Yeah.
That was it.
Guy who's left in charge by
Oh
Tarkin.
yeah, 5-pointer.
5-pointer right there. Nice.
You wouldn't have known it if I hadn't said rat.
I had 15 seconds.
How many episodes are there? I heard different things. I think it was at least 16, right? That's what it was. 16.
Wow.
16 episodes.
Okay.
So there's a little time to be able to flip through it, I guess, in a way. And it's not as rushing to finish it. That's not right. They can go a little slower at times, but that's not for all people. I get that. But anyway, they're heading to Ord Mantell, which of course is famous to Star Wars fans as the name of the place where Han Solo ran into the bounty hunter, and that changed his mind about staying with the Rebellion during Empire Strikes Back. We got to hear that name checked. But we find this character named Sid, who they're led to. Sid supposedly is this kind of underground-ish person who worked with the Jedi, worked with the clones before, and
part of the guild as well in
yes,
some ways.
At least connected to the guild.
Mm-hmm.
She has connections with the guild.
Yep.
It was kind of a typical thing, kind of a typical Yoda type situation where you run into Sid, they don't know who Sid is, except for Omega figures it out. Again, I hate to jump on the whole everything is, that makes her force sensitive. Oh god, that makes her force sensitive. But it kind of seems like they are trying to make her special, definitely, in some way, shape, or form. Definitely trying to make her worth her salt, so to speak, as a character, because she has to earn her place, and this is how she does it to a degree. Interesting to note.
Sorry.
Okay.
What Jerry just said, I'm starting to feel more and more that she might not be force sensitive, that she's just smart, very quick on her feet, sort of just special in a different way.
Omega, you mean? Yeah, right?
Omega, yeah.
Omega, yeah, okay.
Oh, sorry. I read she, not Sid.
Gotcha.
My bad.
Yeah, no, but that's actually not a bad point, Sid, it seems to me. But you know what? Jeremiah, does Hondo Anaka really appear like a Jedi guy? And Obi-Wan
Dex appear like a Jedi guy?
Dex too. Dex a little bit more, but Dex actually, Dex seems like just a little bit more righteous than Sid is, kind of thing. Just but on definitely the same ballpark, I would think. It is funny that Sid is voiced by Rhea Perlman from Cheers. I did not realize that until after the episode. I was like, oh wow, it's her. I was.
But it was great voice acting.
But it was great, yeah.
Yep.
I gotta admit, it was a little off-putting at first, but I grew into it really quickly. Because it was kind of weird hearing, because she looks a lot gruffer, and she has kind of more of a clearer voice, but it was good, though. Oh, I'm not knocking Hondo. Jeremiah, I am not knocking Hondo out. Hondo's probably one of my favorite animated characters of all time. I'm just saying, as far as being a Jedi ally, he doesn't appear he would be a Jedi ally, but he is. But anyway, so we get to Sid, and Sid, they figured out what's going on, and then Sid obviously knows how to work them, because send them on. She's very cocky about what she does. She's like, yep, you're going to do what I'm going to say, I'll give you what you want, and she doesn't let them say no. There's never a time where they actually agree to do it. It's kind of like one of those, this is what you're going to do. You got to do it. I already told you you're going to do it. You're going to do it. And it's kind of funny in a way to me. I'm like, okay, because even Hunter's like, all right, I guess we're going to do it. But
I mean, they got nowhere else to go.
Mm-hmm.
Even Echo
that's
said
true.
like he's the only one that I know. She's the only one that I know how to find.
That's true. That's true. So, and that's where it is at this point. They're kind of up a creek, so to speak. And they need money, they need food, they need friends. They got nothing. Sid's going to take advantage of that, and that's why. Agreed. That going back to Jeremiah saying that, Sid definitely appears to be someone who is willing to take advantage of a situation. And perhaps because the Empire is taking over now, maybe she's lost kind of faith with the Jedi at this point because everything's going down. She's got to survive.
You
Of course,
can't
she
blame
gets-
her because the
Right.
Jedi pretty much wiped out as far as she knows.
Yeah, she's got to do what she's got to do at this point. She's got to survive in this new Empire world, so to speak, or universe rather. But okay, so Sid gives them the mission of tracking down Moochie, who's with some Nigerian slavers.
Moochie.
I do love the idea. Like again, this is what Filoni does best sometimes. Is that he definitely world builds and then returns to his world building, so that he's always expanding what he does. Nigerians obviously were seen during the Clone Wars. They had a big arc in the Clone Wars where Anakin was tested very heavily because of his passions about slavery. Nigerians have always been slavers, but it's good instead of like a lot of series. What a lot of series do, and sci-fi series especially do, unsuccessfully, is they'll introduce these characters or like an alien race or something, and it'll be one and done. You never hear from them again. And it's kind of like, okay, so this is the alien of the week, alien of the week. With Filoni, he introduces characters, and they always seem to come back. Even if you don't like them at first, they sometimes will come back and maybe browbeat a little bit, going, they're not that bad. So it's awesome seeing the Nigerian brought back as well. I did like that race. I think it's definitely a unique race in the Star Wars universe, and so I like their weaponry. I've always liked their weaponry.
Yeah.
It was cool to see them again. Did you guys? Were you guys? I know Jarvi, you don't even probably remember these guys. I don't think you probably saw this Clone Wars arc, did you?
They were new for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always thought they were like a cool race. Slavery part aside,
Right.
that's kind of it's a dick thing.
They're interesting, not cool. That's absolutely. They're interesting to read, watch.
But I thought one of the key lines that they said really stuck out to me was when I think it was Tech or Echo said the Republic outlawed slavery, and the Zygerian said we're not in the Republic anymore.
Right.
I was like, oh, it's continuing to expand on that whole thing of the galaxy's different now. Like, it's not the Republic anymore. Forget everything you knew. There's a new order, so get used to it.
Woo! Absolutely. Wow.
It kind of reminded me of the Klingons. The head shape, sort of like.
Yeah. I get
Yep.
that. I get that to a degree. That's cool. But either way, we have them. Obviously, it's another one of those times which is running a little old for me. Not old's not the right word, but eventually you got to start just trusting Omega a little bit more. I know she's a kid, but it seems like a kind of running thing. Like they do something, no, you got to stay behind. You got to go do something. You can't handle this stuff, so we're gonna go do this thing, and you're gonna stay behind and watch the ship. And of course, she comes in and saves the day somehow. I mean, at least she's not completely saving the day. She does definitely screws it up a little bit herself, but she does let it to the point where they can free the Bad Batch after they get captured by the Zedgerians and held. I love their bow, by the way. I love that bow or the
That was
The
a cool weapon.
Zygerian bow, yeah.
and also the netting they used also to take them out. That's kind of cool.
What was that beast he was riding? I've never seen that before.
The flying
the
thingy that
flying
came
one?
in and attacked them.
Yeah.
I had never seen that before either. It kind of looked a lot like let me see, was it the Brezak? Maybe it was.
See, I was thinking that as well, but I was like, that they don't fly, do they?
I think they do fly a little bit. Anakin flew on one of them for a little bit at one point. I think, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
maybe it was one.
It's been a while since I watched that arc of the episode, but either way, I do like those creatures as well. But they definitely made their presence known this time, that's for sure. But either way, the Rancor, we get to find out that it's a Rancor, not a Feline girl. The whole
That
time,
was kind of
it's a
obvious.
Feline girl. It was a little bit of an obvious thing. It was a little bit of a ploy. Obviously, the episode was called
Not
Rampage.
to me, it wasn't.
No?
No, I thought it was gonna be breeze. There we go. I thought it was gonna be something like Wrecker going on a rampage. I honestly didn't expect it to be young adolescent Rancor, as Tech called it.
I felt it happening as it was happening. I didn't quite get it right away, but I kind of knew that Moochie wasn't the girl that they were seeing. That's what I knew. Kind of like that seemed obvious. I was like, you're assuming that's Moochie.
It's
Just
too
'cause
easy.
She's the only kid.
Yeah.
She's the only kid there. But
Maybe
either
I
way.
like it simple, okay? I thought it was Moochie. I was like, okay, they're gonna get the girl. Fine, easy.
So we get to see the Rancor in action, and it's a baby Rancor. That's awesome, seeing a baby Rancor. I mean, I don't think the baby Rancor is going to quite outsell Dave merchandise or anything like that. But in comparison to the baby Rancor, you got baby Jabba, baby Rancor, now baby Yoda. This is all kind of cool stuff they're doing. They're trying
No one
to
outselling Dave.
It's not going to outsell Dave.
No one's outselling Dave.
But he was pretty damn cute. It was kind of cool. It was actually kind of cool to see. It was really funny to see. That's a good point, Tim. It was nice seeing Feline that weren't Black Sun for once. That's true. There was always
I
been
want to see
Black
more
Sun.
Black Sun stuff.
I do too, but seeing Feline outside of the Black Sun is kind of an interesting new take on things, so I do like that as well. But either way, we get the Rancor. They have to hunt the Rancor down, and luckily it's a teen Rancor, not a full-grown Rancor, so that would have been a lot more problematic. But I loved watching Wrecker go at it.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. It's Wrecker versus the Rancor.
I feel like that would kind of be me. Like if we got into a bar fight, like everyone would just kind of look at me, and I'd just be like, "All right."
I was watching him. Well, you know, Matty must be drunk. He's taking a little longer than usual.
He's just toying with him.
They will follow someone down. Come on, man. Come on.
The funniest part was like Wrecker just collapses over the Rancor, and Hunter just walks past and just pats him on the back. He's like, "Good job, buddy." It's like,
You
yo,
got it.
where the hell were you?
Well, we find out, of course, it was a big tease. Everybody actually was very scared about reading afterwards. That everybody thought, well, we love this Rancor. It turns out when she's given to Bib Fortuna and Jabba, that, oh no, is this the Rancor that Luke's going to kill in a couple episodes? Well,
Thank God.
lucky enough, it's not the Rancor, not the same Rancor. Moochie is not Pentisa, is the name of the other Rancor. So it's a different Rancor entirely. Jabba must go through different Rancors. That makes sense because this is way back when, Jabba just maybe Pantisa's the son or daughter of Moochie. Who knows?
Do you know what I feel like was? You know how if you adopt a dog, like if you go to a dog show and something, a dog might have its own name, and then like you give it a different name because it's your dog, or you get a dog when it's a puppy and like the breeder might have given it a name, but you change the name. I thought it might have been like the Rancor was given to Jabba as a gift, and then he changed the name.
I didn't think about that, but I mean, that's what it's been denied. I mean, Bib Fortuna himself was calling him Moochie, so it wasn't like Bib was. I mean, so I guess it could be possible.
Bib looked good in this too. Yeah, Bib he was still trimmed down. He hadn't, he hadn't packed on the weight yet. Bib looked good.
He did. He definitely hasn't. Well, Jabba when Jabba when he became king of the hill, that's when he lost his shape at that point because he was the guy in charge at that point. He didn't have to give a fuck anymore. And Jerry, interesting you're asking this. I think that's a big point. Episode 6. I don't know. Maybe you haven't seen episode 6, but I think we know what's going on with them. But we'll talk about that more in a second.
Ready. I'm not ready.
So the end of this episode, after they give Moochie to Bib and the Gamorrean guards, they have a section, and Sid tells Hunter a little bit about Fennec Shand. I was a little disappointed at the end. I'm like, they're not telling us anything we don't know. There's no reveal to it at all. It's like, this is the bounty hunter's name is Fennec Shand. Okay, who's he working for? No idea.
Other than the one line that she is working on a direct commission, which again leads back to my theory of I think the Kaminoans hired her.
Yeah. Oh, I still think that might be the way as well. That's what we're going with. Although, here's the thing to me about that theory of yours. To me, that almost seems too easy. Because we know... First of all, we know the Empire is searching for her. We know the Kaminoans are searching for her. So, it's one of those two are the ones that are what makes sense. I almost feel like that there's someone else looking for her that we don't know about yet for some reason. We don't know why yet. I think that's going to be a big storyline in there. Because there are two we already know that they want her. Kaminoans have said that they want her back. The Empire, you kind of feel like they know something's there too. Like almost like because they know more than they let on most of the time. And a direct commission, Darth Vader, that tends to be something that happens a lot anyway. Darth Vader does hire bounty hunters one-on-one a lot of times to do stuff. I don't know if he's involved. I'm not saying he's involved. I don't think he's involved. But it does leave it being maybe the Empire. But I kind of feel like there's a third party that we don't know about yet, and we're going to find out more, maybe. Maybe it's too early for it. But I was a little disappointed about that. I wanted to get a little bit more at that point. It's Fennec Shand, which we knew.
Do you think maybe 16 episodes is a bit too much?
Um,
They could have narrowed it down to say 10 to 12.
I wish they kind of did.
this is the thing about a lot of those things. This 16 to 20 episodes is kind of like the old school way of doing TV. And especially in the once a week format, it definitely can make it longer than it needs to be. A lot of times, it seems a lot of TV things are gearing down more towards the less is more angle, and doing 10 episodes and getting the story done in 10 episodes is the way to go. I don't necessarily mind it per se, because spending time in the world and getting to revisit places, everything else, I can still have a good time with it. But at the end of the day, I'm probably just going to look, if I rewatch The Bad Batch, there might be episodes I skip because of that. I might go, I don't need to watch that one again. I don't need to watch that one again, kind of thing. So it's kind of a yes and no in a way. I get your point. I don't, not to the point where I mind it as much, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
So at the end, of course, I guess how we're ending, and I actually thought that was probably going to be it. Like, they were going to get their money and they were going to leave, and that was all we were going to see Sid. That's why I was kind of fearing what Jarvi was fearing, to the degree like, okay, it's another time we meet somebody and we're done and gone. But then we move on to the 6th episode, and there we are with Sid again.
Before that, she almost kind of hints that she could betray them, but she's not going to.
You see, that's what she said. She knows
At
things.
the very end of the 5th episode.
Right. She does say she knows things, but that she can keep a secret. And that's a good thing. But it still felt like it was more like a, all right, you guys are going to go, you'll hear from me again. I kind of felt like it was one of the things like we would hear from Sid like in 6 or 7 episodes when she needed help again with something kind of thing, instead of them sticking around on Orbendo. Yeah, and Wingblade, you're right. I get it, and that's why it's also part of our short attention span, I think, in a way. And I don't mean that necessarily negatively. It's just how we've moved towards that. Maybe because I'm a little older, I'm used to the older fashioned way of doing things. That's why it doesn't bother me as much.
I think Sid at the end, I think that was kind of like a veiled threat as well. To be like,
exactly.
Hey, when I call, you pick up the phone. Because remember, I know who you are, I know where you are, and you need me more than I need you.
You need friends and money. Money I can give you, and I can maybe be your friend.
Yeah. It was I liked it. I think it was very, it definitely makes her more interesting character because you don't know where you can stand. You don't know if you can trust her completely yet. It's kind of like a Hondo in a way, what Jerry was saying about Hondo before. You never knew exactly where you stood with Hondo. He always seemed to be like...
You still don't.
You never do, exactly. You still don't. Hell, in the episode of Rebels where he became more good in Rebels, he still sold him out a few times. And yet they still work with him. It's kind of weird. But Jerry has a good point, too. This is what I'm talking about. If we narrow it down and get to 10 episodes, I don't think we get to see Cut and his family again, which I like seeing. I like revisiting those things. I like revisiting those characters that we get to see. And that's how we get to build that world out. Is it necessary to do? No, but it's nice. It's nice to see. I like that. We'll get more of that. So, all right, let's move into episode 6, the decommissioned episode. And I will tell you straight from the source that this was probably my favorite episode since the initial
first one.
Since the initial one. And like I said, I meant like before, is that I retroactively made episode 5 better in terms of it does seem like, all right, we're working with Sid now. Sid is going to become a permanent fixture in the show, at least for the near future. We have a home base now. Our mission is now not just going from planet to planet to find things. Our mission is to find out who is this bounty hunter, what are they doing. There will be side missions to do because they have to eat. They have to make money, but they have more everything in place. They got to find out who's looking for her, why they're looking for her, and what are they going to do about it. So that's what we get here. Sid comes in. We see Omega being trained up a little bit. That's going to continue on.
Love that training part. I need those training
That's
bits in there. This is what I needed more of in the sequel trilogy as well, like Rey training. I want to see someone like training, getting better. So there's like a reason why someone gets better, not just that they're suddenly like very capable.
I know what you need. You need a montage.
Exactly.
Omega just running up mountains. Yeah,
Exactly.
Just shooting the. I need work with those arms. She can work the bow.
But
I did think it was a really cool line where she said, I've already hit it 3 times, and then Echo says, out of 12.
12.
That's luck, not skill.
And then I love Sid coming in. You got a weak arm. Look.
Yep.
There. Training's over for today. Oh, shit. So Sid's kind of badass a little bit. She's definitely more than meets the eye with her. So, I did love that quite a bit. Of course, now we get to the next mission, though. Obviously, Sid basically saying, you're working for me, and they do have a little back and forth. Hunter's like, well, we didn't really officially. Yeah, you did. You're doing it, and that's what I'm saying. And Hunter's kind of like, oh, God, I'm right. Damn it. Yeah, Sid actually helped the clones. They didn't go through it like Sid. That's true. Sid. That's an interesting thing because the clones don't know how to train somebody like that. The clones were made. They were bred. They were trained like an individual, like with their own brain, which is all similar brains and everything else. Having them take on this other character we don't know much more about, although it's just a clone, it's a kid instead of like growing up fast. She's going to grow up slow, obviously. So far, at least we assume so. I mean, maybe there's aging to her. We don't know that yet, so we'll find out. But definitely more of a. This is definitely different from what the clones are used to. Whereas Sid seems like maybe she's trained an orphan or two, or a scum rat or two when they're young. So
I mean, you've only got to look at her race.
Yeah. What is it? What is Sid?
She's Trandoshan, isn't she?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I was asking you so you could answer that.
Oh, okay. You think you're getting me with that? No.
No. I wasn't trying to get you. I was just telling you that reason. But yeah, Trandoshans, that's what they do. They're good at training younglings. Their own younglings, so to speak.
Have you two gone like head to head in Star Wars trivia, like in some shape or form?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
Kind of. Not like.
We did a watch along of a Star Wars match.
Yeah, and I'll openly admit it. Paul beat me.
I need to see like 10 to 20 questions just
I'm
head to head, just like.
I'm retired.
No. This is not
retired.
Returning. This is not making a comeback. I just need to see this. I would pay money to see this.
I'm retired.
Anyone but Paul, bring it on. Eamon, Demolanta, Burkett.
I know what
else.
you need. You need that Mickey Mouse money. And you'll fight him. You'll fight him.
For Mickey Mouse money, I'll do anything.
Yep.
I'm not going to lie. I'm definitely open for a price.
All right.
But either way, go back with the episode. We do have the idea of bringing in the separatist tactical droids again. These things have always been important in the Clone Wars and everything else, and I kind of. It always amuses me that I think Dave Filoni loves these things. Like he really loves these things.
So these were pre-established droids.
Yes.
Because to me, this was like tactical droids. Like why isn't every droid a tactical droid? It's just programming. This was like new to me. That was the first question that popped to my mind.
In the Clone Wars, they were like the leader. Like you'd actually place these guys in charge of the droid troops. Like instead of having like a leader. Like there'd be like a General Grievous type character, an Admiral Trench type character. Then like these guys would kind of be like the field marshals in front of things, and you could actually leave the tactical droid in charge and like leave the system. Like
feels like an AI sort of.
It is
like an adaptable droid sort of who can learn fighting patterns.
Yep, there's an episode in Rebels as well. Did the same thing where the Jedi had to find not the Jedi. I'm saying, well, kind of Kanan. The Rebels ran into this old base, and there was still a tactical droid there running things and trying to like learn from the Clone Wars battles and adapt to make things better. So
one of my favorite episodes of Rebels, by the way.
Work your way through as generals before you go after the Daemons, Matty. Oh, nice. Tim Etheridge wants to fake you on, maybe. Ooh.
Anytime.
The generals.
I just want to see you two battle. I don't care about anything else. I just need you two. I need to see.
I already beat you.
I'll admit, Paul beat me. I'm a man. I'm man enough to admit it.
I write.
Is there video? I need to see that.
Check with Zach. I don't know if Zach recorded the watch along.
He might have. But that is a good point, Jerry. I mean, these droids are so weird. They're pumped up as great tactical things. We haven't seen them win anything. Well, I mean, they win until they face Jedi. Generally, that's what happened. Like on Obi-Wan or Anakin. I mean, they're good Jedi. They're really good Jedi. But
it's like Rex said, isn't it? Like they win until they face them.
That's right, and pretty much, and they learn. And they still learn more. But either way, they have to go to get the separatist tactical droid during a decommissioning facility. They want to get that. It makes sense of why they want to get it, because now that the clones are on one side, the tactical droids are probably the ones who will learn the most about the clones' strategies and stratagems and how they attack. So anybody who want to face the clones, which is New Rebellion, you would think, would want to get that information out there. Also, people like the Underground would want to know more about the clones and how to possibly get past blockades and things of that nature. So the information is definitely seen to me be a worthy mission to go get this droid head and try to see what they can do.
Now that the clones work for the Empire, how to beat them's gone up in price.
Pretty much, that's what it says. So they go to Corellia, and they sneak in use the old Millennium Falcon, although it's kind of not the old Millennium Falcon trick at this point, but to us it's the old Millennium Falcon trick. We hang on to the back of a Star Cruiser, and they and they go through, and they enter the city, and it's a kind of cool thing. And then they run into the twins, or the sisters,
Trace and
rather.
Rafa.
Trace and Rafa. Again, the second time we've seen them.
Is
Now, yes. So you didn't watch-
Educate the newbie.
They were actually introduced in the final season of the Clone Wars, the 7th season, the one that just came out recently. It was one of their arcs. After Ahsoka left the Jedi Order and kind of did her sort of walkabout of the universe, she ran into the sisters, and they had this little mission together. The sisters were very kind of unscrupulous. They weren't bad people at all. They were just young people trying to survive. So like they got into trouble trying to run spice, and they weren't like bad. They were just kind of like willing to do stuff for a buck and everything else. But they had a moral center, and they ended up probably changing a little bit by the end. Ahsoka helps change them a little bit here and there. I wasn't expecting them either. They weren't actually very well liked. Their episodes in the Clone Wars were kind of shit upon a little bit as far as that goes.
Really?
I wasn't a fan.
I wasn't a fan either. I think they were fine, but like
I liked them in this episode.
I did like them a lot more this episode. I gotta say, this episode made me like them a little bit more. They were a lot less annoying. They seemed like they had much more of a purpose. They are obviously a little bit older, a little bit more mature. Now, I mean, obviously, it hasn't been too long since Ahsoka dealt with them, because it was the last season, so the last bit. But I do feel like that arc matured them a little bit. They do feel like they have grown together, so I kind of like them a lot more. They actually have a lot more purpose, it seems. As we find out towards the end, they definitely have more purpose than we know about, but we'll get there. So there's a lot of action in this episode. It's episode pretty much all action, straight throughout. It had the droids, getting to see some clankers in action again against the clone army, so to speak. This is a smaller clone army.
Good.
That was really cool action. Like 'cause we've gotten action before. This was the first time I felt like I was engaged because I really felt like Omega was in actual danger.
Yeah.
Like I was like really afraid for her. I know that she's always going to survive. The clones are going to save her. But this was something that really, it did something differently. And I don't know if it was just me. Did you get some Solo vibes from this episode?
A little bit.
First off, like they went back to Corellia. This was like the first, and okay, they're doing a job, but someone else is doing a parallel job that they are doing as well. So they're kind of competing. Again, this is where they went up against the, when they went for the, the train sequence in Solo.
The hyperfuel.
Yeah, we're getting two teams competing for the same resource, and in the end, they end up giving their prize to someone who needs it more. So this was very much like the Solo movie.
Yep, there's a lot. There are definitely some aspects to it. I totally get it. In the same way, like the down urbanist kind of environment.
And also the Attack of the Clones.
A little bit of that too. I'm not gonna lie. The clone had that little droid facility, so that does never rings a little true as well.
Another little tie into Solo as well. I think I know what that factory was for, because what was missing in Corellia in this episode that we saw in Solo?
What?
Star Destroyers in the sky.
That's true.
So I think that factory was them melting down the droids to make the metal for the Star Destroyers.
Could be. Could be. Could be at the shipyard there. Definitely could be a possibility. So, but either way, we had great. Like I said, we had great action. Great action throughout. A lot of battle, a lot of fighting, everything else. It was all. So, and it was kind of nice to have a full-on action episode. I mean, now that wasn't why I love the episode so much, but it was kind of fun because a lot of times, a lot of the slower episodes they take a little longer. There's not as much. This was all out balls to all action for the most part.
Yep, and there were stakes to the action as well. Like we had a training sequence at the start. Now we see Omega trying to use that power, that skill, but still not good enough. I love that. She's
Arms
still
looking
getting
a little
there.
shaky, kid.
I'm just shaky.
Yeah. I love that, and you know that the next few episodes she's gonna get better, and at some point she's gonna make it. This was the big thing that bothered me about Rey. Like she got there too fast. I need her failing a little bit and then getting there.
And she did, although we did have at the end of the episode, she kind of was doing a little better. Of course, there's a lot of targets, so she could just kind of open fire and probably hit anything at that point because there's like so many of them. It's like a machine gun versus a pistol, so to speak. But she's going to eventually be great with the bow. I think it's going to be a big thing for her in the future. But, of course, the best part to me, or the most daunting part, as I said, was Wrecker.
Oh yeah.
The last couple episodes, Wrecker had the head injury. And
What was that all about?
Wrecker hit his head. Well,
Chip?
I'm going to get there. Wrecker hit his head a couple episodes ago. And then last episode, the 5th episode, he kind of made mention that his head was hurting again. They didn't, so I knew it was leading somewhere. Today, this is the episode where we got it. Obviously, somehow either his head knocking, like activated the chip more, or dug the chip in more. Either way, it damaged the chip or something. But definitely, the chip is starting to try to fight Wrecker somehow. I kind of feel like the chip got damaged, and maybe like because I don't think he's going after Jedi per se necessarily. Good soldiers follow orders. That's what he said a couple times, just like Crosshair did. I feel like it's damaging him and maybe brain damaging him at this point, which we don't need to brain damage Wrecker because he's not exactly top of the line anyway. So,
Let me ask you guys: have either of you ever had a concussion?
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
It's
Yeah.
one of the most horrible experiences that anyone could ever have. Like your motor skills just go, and just imagining someone like Wrecker completely losing his will, like his free will, and maybe that good soldiers follow orders. Maybe that's the new order to find the Bad Batch. Maybe Wrecker just goes full ballistic, because when it was Tech talking to him, he said good soldiers follow orders. But when Omega was speaking to him, he kind of snapped out of it a little bit.
Yeah. And they already developed them having a very close relationship, the two of them. So that might be where Omega may be the one to save Wrecker from going downhill. And that might be the way it happened. But I think we're going to see a time where Wrecker snaps. And Hunter's going to try to save him. I don't want it either. But I feel like if he does snap, I still feel like he might snap, but we'll still get him. Like they'll save him the way they couldn't save Crosshair. That's the kind of way I feel it's going to happen. Hopefully. But yeah, right now I'm a little worried about it. I'm like, oh, don't lose Wrecker. Love Wrecker so much.
But this is exactly
going.
what gets me more engaged. I need more of these betrayals, these adult themes, because this episode was so far off from the kiddie stuff that was bothering me before.
I guess
this was like full, and like I said, I think it was 2 or 3 episodes ago, like where Crosshair's executing the prisoner. I come off like a psychopath. So I need the murders.
I need to see them kill younglings.
I need, yeah.
Fucking Liam.
At least kill Liam. Yeah. Fucking Liam.
I'm gonna put Liam up in a cross. I'm gonna torture the poor boy. That's what Jarvi. I mean, a little dark, but okay. No, I get it. No, I do get that. Look, that is what the cartoons have done a lot of times. They do obviously have a kid-friendly audience for the most part, but they do bring you along and show you these adult themes as well. Now, this is a regular series, being that it's a Star Wars series, it makes it easier for me to let the things go, because I know we're getting this at some point here and there. But yeah, I get what you're saying. This is exactly what I meant. Is why it's my favorite episode as well. Going in, and of course, as we finish up, I do have only a little bit of time left. I do want to talk about obviously the ending.
Yes.
Where they get out of there. The sisters go their way. The Bad Batch goes on their way.
One quick question: what do the sisters need the droid for? What was their end goal? Why did Hunter say go ahead? For the rebellion, or
we don't know. She said something about Well, they kind of like implied
against the Empire, or something.
Yeah,
like
so
that.
something against the Empire, or something about some people want to fight the Empire, kind of thing. It wasn't really explicit about it. But
so they are definitely coming back at some point to save them. I have a feeling.
I have a feeling that's not the last time we've seen them. I have a feeling that eventually. I got a feeling that eventually they're going to end up fighting together at some point, but we'll find that out soon. But that's the idea, is we don't know exactly, but we do get the little tease where Rafa and Trace, I kind of get them mistaken sometimes. One of them, they're both in the ship, and they turn and they talk to somebody.
Someone.
But they don't reveal who that is, but they basically say, I know where the
Bail.
I don't think is. That actually, yeah, hey, Ron, good to see you. See you, brother. That was my initial thought. My prediction was that's Bail Organa. Although I will say that the one thing that's different about that idea to me is that Bail might be too much. Bail might be too big of a deal for that. So it might actually end up being, and this is something I'm going to throw out there. What if it's Cassian Andor?
Oh, I like that way more. I like that way more. Mm-hmm.
I thought Bale, but then I kind of thought about it more, and I kind of would love it to be Cassian Andor.
That would kind of make sense as well, because he's so much more ready to get down into the dirt and use that
He already is
data
against the
in that
clones.
terrain.
He's
Mhm,
already
mhm.
against the clones. He's already against the clones. He was a separatist for a while, and now he'd still be the one that's still fighting to get against the clones. And he'd still be someone who's going to start the Rebel Alliance, to be one of the first people to start some kind of Rebel Alliance.
And it would make sense for them to start teasing some Andor in there.
That was my other thought process.
Yep.
The Andor series coming up wouldn't hurt to have a little bit of that.
You brilliant bastard. That might
Indeed.
because I saw the cloak over the tunic, and my first thought was Bale, because that's the kind of thing he wears. Then I went to R7 being there, and I was like, maybe it's Rex wearing some kind of cloak. We know Rex is going to appear at some point,
Right.
so maybe it is Rex. Andor is a completely different whoop, and I like it. I like it a lot.
And Mike, just so you know, just to clarify, I don't mean that he was a big reveal. I kind of am saying I think Bale is too high up in the hierarchy of a Rebel Alliance situation to be dealing with somebody like the sisters yet. I think Bale would probably delegate to somebody else potentially or something like that. So I think this is a smaller rebellion sector. I think Bale might not be involved yet. I think that Andor might be in the beginning just reaching out his own cells, and eventually that cell is somebody who would eventually hook up with somebody like a Bale Organa or something to that effect.
Now,
So not a big reveal, just an idea that it might be not someone we want to see at that point. Just a thought.
Another one I had in mind was for the character type of the two sisters and their upbringing and the way they mentioned that their client is someone who wants to fight back against the Empire. What if it's a complete red herring, and what if it's just Saw Gerrera?
Okay, it could be Saw.
And like they meet Saw, and they're just like, "Oh, it's you guys." Like,
Right.
your guy killed my people.
Right.
So now that adds that little bit of conflict in there with Saw. And we know what happens with him. He goes a bit...
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely an idea. That's definitely something to be thrown out there. Right. Yeah, the Alliance is definitely nowhere near being formed, but they have ideas that they want to fight back. There's obviously rumblings of people wanting to fight back. So this could be the first kind of cell, so to speak. Maybe the sisters were hired by Andor. I mean, it could be somebody else, too. It could be someone else entirely. It could be somebody like Crimson Dawn.
Don't.
They want to make it out like it's a rebellion type thing. Maybe the sisters were definitely characters that you could see being duped.
More shows
Maybe
like
they
Bad
think
Batch.
maybe they were duped again, and they think they're doing something good. They're actually doing it for Crimson Dawn purposes.
You
I
know
don't know.
what?
I don't know.
That could happen. Because Maul is that level of genius.
Saying there's a lot of different things out there. I'm hoping it's not Bale. I mean, it is Bale, it is, but like, I think there's a lot of different, more like fun ways you can go with this one.
Yeah,
There was. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
Jeff.
No, you finish your thought.
I was saying, just Jerry in the chat saying, I'm like, Hawkeye and Endgame. I'm like, don't give me hope.
Yeah, for a sec there, I was thinking that maybe they're working for the bad guys, like not knowingly, and that they're talking to Crosshair somehow. But then it got me thinking, what happened to Wrecker? Maybe that's something that Crosshair is doing to influence the chip in him, somehow trying to turn him into like what Crosshair is doing, trying to get him on board without going after them directly, sort of trying to sabotage them from the inside out.
True.
I know that's really not because he hit his head and there's not a lot of signs there, but maybe there's some way that he's trying to infiltrate them that way.
Tim's saying interesting. Don't be shocked with Crimson Dawn makes an appearance because they created Dryden Voss for 1 second of screen time in Clone Wars. That's true. That's true. You never know. They like to reuse when they make a character, like to be able to reuse it later on. So maybe Paul Bettany comes back for that. I don't know. Who knows?
Hell yeah.
So let's see that more. A lot of potential possibilities. That's why I keep saying you're right. You're right. Bale would be actually. It's funny that Bale would be the boring one in a way. I agree. But if it is Bale, it'd be okay anyway. But I still would love to see it's a good. I still agree it's probably most likely Bale, but I would like to see a twist. I'm hoping it's one of the other ones. Either any of the others we just mentioned, I would love. Andor, Maul, Dryden Voss. I would love any of those, to be honest with you. That'd be kind of cool. So I even let's throw out there Hondo. But, I mean, I don't know. That's just because I want to see Hondo. So
That would be pretty sweet.
So,
I wonder how they deal with Hondo.
I don't know either. I don't want to see what they say. I feel like they'd be good with Hondo. I think they would like deal well with Hondo. I do feel like that. I feel like they would get along with Hondo to a degree. At least how much they get along with Sid. I mean, I think Wrecker would love Hondo, to be honest with you. I think Wrecker and Hondo would get along quite well.
Maybe.
So we'll find out. I think Omega would get along well with Hondo.
Oh,
Especially
God.
because Hondo does well with them. Like, he had that episode with the younglings or whatever. At the end of the episode, they gained his respect, and he had gained their respect. I mean, that moment, one of my favorite Hondo moments in the Clone Wars was when like Hondo drops them off, and Hondo starts leaving. He turns, and you see the little young female Jedi go up, and she kind of like looks at him, and Hondo just looks back and acknowledgement, and kind of like then leaves. It was touching. It was cool. So. But, all right, guys, I gotta head off. We're gonna finish up this episode. Jarvi, where can the folks find you?
Since I'm not doing anything else at the moment, you can find me here on PLD Projects Weekly with, sometimes bi-weekly, usually weekly. So we're going to be back next Sunday right here.
We should be up close to episode 7. We'll talk about episode 7 then. Matty, where can the folks find you?
You guys find me right here whenever we go live. Scoundrels of the Force with these two lovely gentlemen. You can find me on Twitter at Matty Gunner, Instagram Matty_Gunner, because someone has Matty Gunner on Instagram but hasn't posted since 2012. So they won't respond to my DMs to try to get that back. And every Wednesday and Sunday on the Wild Jones Podcast Network for the RNU MMA show, where we talk the whole world of combat sports, everything that's not Jake Paul, Floyd Mayweather.
All right. Well, and you can find me on PLD Products every week, hopefully every week now, Scoundrels of the Force. You can find me on the Action Industries with Ben and Drew. Ben Bateman and Drew Guy, and do a lot of their behind-the-scenes work. We're going to be doing Root of the Question this week at Saturdays. We're talking about the Schmodown questions. We're going to be doing something with Loki. I don't even know if I'm going to be actually being involved or not with that episode, because I know that Ben and Drew are going to be doing short-form content with that. They're just trying to work out how they want to do it. It might be pre-recorded instead of doing a live stream, so I might not be involved with that, but we'll find out. And then, of course, you can find me on Call to Action. Actually, I returned to Call to Action last night for the first time and since, like, April 12th, I found out. I was like, oh, my God, it's been that long since I've been on because I've been so busy. But me and Jake broke down the pay-per-view from last weekend, the other weekly events with Chance Ellison and Robert Parker. And then, finally, you can find me on the FCL every Tuesday, the First Class League, the Developmental League of Schmodown. We're losing some of our players left and right. They're being drafted to the big leagues, but that's what we're there for. So we got to make do, obviously. Got a big match this week, and of course next week is our big championship match. At this point, we have a big championship match and a big undercard to be announced this Tuesday on FCL. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, yeah, that's me. That's why I love you guys so much for hanging on. I got some guests next week. We'll hopefully have some other guests on. Hopefully, eventually, we'll have Jeremiah Morris on if he can do it sometime. We'll do another Monday episode just for him if that works for him. But until then, may the Force be with you guys. Always.
Take care.
I did it all for the Wookiee.